So when I was making the decision to get a specific video game system, it came down to this. I really wanted to play Halo. The only way to do that, you had to get an Xbox. Halo has been one of the most popular games of all time, and soon it's going to be available on Xbox's biggest rival, PlayStation. That's a really big change, and it tells us a lot about where the video game industry is at right now. I'm Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Jonathan Orr is here. Alyssa Mercante is here. Hello, friends. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Nice to
Hi.
see you. I'm delighted to talk about this. Alyssa, I'm going to start with you because I personally was a little bit shocked when I heard that, hey, Halo, the prize jewel of Xbox, was suddenly just going to be just out here, just available for anybody. So what was your reaction when you kind of first heard that news?
I mean, like the console girl in me from 2008 was shocked, but the person who's been seeing what's going on in the industry for the last 4 or 5 years has kind of seen them sort of letting us know that this is what was going to happen. We've had Xbox games go over to PlayStation already, like Gears of War. So I think we kind of had an idea this was coming. I think it being Xbox's arguably biggest game ever is a little bit of a bigger jump, but I'm not totally shocked.
I can't take that because, like, to me, I thought that all of the other games were in one bucket, Alyssa, and then Halo's another thing. Like the idea that, like, no matter what, you protect the crown jewel. And the idea that Gears of War would go like, oh, okay, that's a surprise. That's a bit of a turn. That's not Halo. Doesn't it feel like Halo's sort of in another realm of its own when it comes to just like how important it is for Microsoft?
Yeah, I mean, I think Halo and its character protagonist Master Chief were kind of synonymous with Xbox for the longest time. I don't think it obviously made it better that he was green, like Xbox green, but he was kind of involved in everything, all the marketing. He's on everything. It's Master Chief and Xbox. But yeah, I think Xbox has just been already for the last 2 years shifting away from being about, hey, we're a console, and more about we're a suite of software and you can play our games on anything. You can play them on your TV. You can play them on the new Xbox ROG Ally X we just released. You can play them on your Xbox. You can play them on your laptop, on your iPad. And that's been kind of the shift already. So I think this is, albeit it's wild, it's kind of the natural progression of what Microsoft and Xbox have been doing for the past few years.
Jonathan, I'm going to tell you a story. And the story is this. I am 14 years old. I'm working at a convenience store, and the Xbox magazine just came out. And they're telling you how to establish your setup for your brand new Xbox. This is before Xboxes were even out in the world. And the front of that magazine had the Master Chief because, like, hey, big anticipation, get ready for this thing. I mean, they spent so much time positioning Halo as the thing that makes you want to get an Xbox. And to just help us understand the significance of how important Halo is, I just want you to listen to this.
Citizens of the world, we are in deep doo-doo. Aliens. There's a lot of them, and they're meanies. As peace-loving humans, we must take up arms. And by arms, I mean guns. United, we will form a giant can opener, and we will open a giant can of whoop-ass.
I'll tell you this, what I am is deeply, deeply nostalgic. That's from 2001. That is a TV commercial for Halo Combat Evolved. That's the first entry in the Halo franchise. Jonathan, tell me about the importance of Halo is to the Xbox and why it's been the sort of flagship franchise for 25 years.
Yeah, wow, that ad
Yeah.
brings back some vibes. I see even the Toronto Sun was quoted in there. That's interesting. Mostly agreeing with Alyssa. Like, Halo launched with the Xbox in 2001. It was the flagship first-party game. Master Chief was green. It is the Xbox green. Like, I'm sure even the Pantones are similar. So it was very much important in establishing what the Xbox was and what the Xbox wasn't. Like, if you even look at that video, I mean, like, Halo was very much a sci-fi game with like a Western U.S. military vibe to it. I mean,
Yeah.
kind of playful, but like it was definitely not a game made by a Japanese studio, like coming out of Nintendo or PlayStation. It kind of set the identity for the Xbox brand and the kind of games you would play for better or worse. At a certain age, like, I'd say, 14 or 15, if you were Team Xbox, as opposed to like Team PlayStation, that probably also meant that you were Team Halo. And you were there playing Halo like at LAN parties with your friends, bringing your Xboxes and your TVs to other people's basements and playing them, all through the night.
Oh yeah, when I heard of other people playing other games, I go like, why would you even want to when you have the option of playing Halo? Like that's how crucial this game was to me. The idea that I would sort of like get my backpack out and go like, all right, I'm gonna drag this Xbox to my friend's house in order to be able to for 8 of us to be able to play, but also completely worth it. Alyssa, let's talk about this moment now, this idea of like Halo going to PlayStation, which feels like a sacrilegious thing for me to just say out loud. But what does that tell you about the state of Xbox right now, and also just like its place in the gaming industry at large?
I think the gaming industry has been kind of in a strange space since COVID when it saw like the biggest boom ever that you're never going to recreate unless, the unfortunate reality of another gigantic shutdown happens, which nobody wants. They had an influx of people who never played video games before buying consoles to play them while they were stuck inside. And after that, I think a lot of video game companies were hoping that they'd keep hitting those benchmarks. This is how companies are, right? They're like, number go up, number has to go up. But number is not going to go up in a world where people go back to work regularly, or in a world where consoles are more expensive than they were 10, 15 years ago and people aren't making more money. So a lot of video game studios are either making the decision to buy other studios and kind of make giant conglomerates of massive studios, which Microsoft has already done with a lot of studios, or EA being sold to a conglomerate of other companies, like I was on here discussing a little while ago.
Yeah.
Xbox has been kind of positioning itself as you can buy Xbox Game Pass, which is something that allows you to play a bunch of different games. It's a subscription service. You pay monthly and you get access to a ton of games, all of the Xbox release games, usually Microsoft release games and other things. That's been kind of their bread and butter. They're like, you can pay for this and we'll give you access to games across a variety of different things, whether you want to play on, like I said, your computer, your phone, your this, your that. So I think this is really showing that in a world where people may only be able to afford one console or one thing to play video games on, studios are like, how do we diversify the people that are playing our game rather than pigeonholing them into, well, if you have a PlayStation, sucks for you guys, you can't play Halo. I think they're really just looking at if the only way to make number go up is to make more people able to play these games. And I think that's really the mindset behind it.
I really love the idea of a bunch of people filing to a boardroom saying number down. How does number go up? That just that sort of thinking. But also, it's a bit of a bummer to me as someone who, like, I've had 25 years of loyalty specifically to Xbox because of the exclusivity of the games that they have, including Halo. So like when you kind of like enter into this moment and try to sort of think about like, okay, Game Pass, I have it, it's fine. Some of the other games that I play, I don't have the same kind of relationship to them. But Jonathan, one of the interesting things that sort of happened in response to all this was that, the gaming chain store GameStop sort of issued this mock government executive order claiming that the console wars, they're over now. Obviously, bit of a joke, but does it feel like in a way we're moving, away from game exclusives as like the primary way to sell somebody a gaming console?
Yeah, I mean, GameStop's advertising is interesting. Like making it a government style order is fascinating in ways that we'll talk about later. But I mean, the weird thing is that I don't think like games exclusives, it's still a big deal for Nintendo and PlayStation, like especially Nintendo. Like you cannot play Nintendo games without getting a Switch or Switch 2. That's hasn't changed. I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. There's like a little bit of movement in PlayStation. Like I believe you can play Helldivers 2 on Xbox now. But like really, it's really Microsoft and Xbox that are like moving for the real, like, there's no walled garden. Everything is an Xbox. Your phone is an Xbox. Your PlayStation is apparently now possibly an Xbox. But like with Sony, like God of War, The Last of Us, to my recollection, are still basically PlayStation exclusive.
Yeah.
Astrobot won the Game of the Year last year. That's a PlayStation 5 exclusive. So really, Microsoft seems like the exception. Although I would say like the idea of like Halo / Master Chief as a brand on PlayStation doesn't really shock me, because I mean like 25 years ago we all went through this when Sonic showed up on a Nintendo system, and that was the one that really
that was
blew
hard
my
on me
mind.
too, dude. That was also hard on me. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think like there is something about these sort of emotional relationships that develop with a platform, with a specific console, and then when that sort of changes, I go through this grief, and unfortunately for everybody, I now have a radio microphone to talk about that grief in, and that's why you guys are here. Jonathan, you mentioned this idea of the executive order being an interesting move for GameStop to issue. Alyssa, we're not going to wait. We're going to talk about this now because one notable response we've seen to the news has been from the White House's X account. They reposted that GameStop message alongside this AI image of Donald Trump dressed as the Halo character Master Chief. And then under the words, power to the players. It is common, I think, for politicians to sort of weigh in on pop culture news, especially the Donald Trump White House. But there's something more significant to you that you're seeing about, the way that the White House used that image.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, myself included, would argue that one of the major reasons why Trump was first elected the first go around was because they managed to tap into gamers as a voting bloc and understand that gamers tended to be sort of unaligned politically, but incredibly online and willing to kind of get directed in a certain way. I mean, Steve Bannon, who was running the Trump campaign, literally said that these young white gamers have monster power and we have to direct them somewhere, and we should direct them to Trump. We should get them in through Gamergate, which was a harassment campaign from 2014 by gamers, and we should direct them towards Trump. So Trump has been courting these kinds of people for a very long time. I think what's different now is kind of twofold. One, obviously, these kinds of posts and meme behavior used to be in darker corners of the internet or places on the internet that weren't accessed as often as normies. Like normies don't really go there. People who are regularly on Facebook or Twitter are not necessarily on 4chan or Reddit, these kind of more message board posting gamer focused spaces. But now with Musk in charge of Twitter and with a lot of other social media platforms kind of loosening their terms of service restrictions, allowing for a little bit more questionable speech, hate speech in some cases, you see these kinds of posts happening, these gamer-focused posts, which can often lean a little bit aggressive or regressive on major platforms like Twitter. So I think now you have the president of the United States and other people within his cabinet, other people who are in this administration, gamer posting on Twitter rather than them just kind of referencing it maybe, but not actually making the posts. And they certainly weren't on Reddit years ago, so they weren't doing it there. But then the other aspect of it is now there's an even more blatant usage of just like intellectual property that doesn't belong to them. And that's part and parcel with AI, which uses that all of the time. And there's a lot of copyright, gray area around that. And I think that's why it's different as well. They are just blatantly taking imagery from companies that could technically, issue a copyright strike, and projecting them as, propaganda for gamers, and they're eating it up.
Well, something tells me that Microsoft is not going to be particularly eager to make a move to say, hey, please stop using that intellectual property of ours. And that has a whole bunch of other reasons that we don't even have the time to get into here. I got about a minute and a half left here, Jonathan. And what I want to do with that time is just play you really quickly this clip of Pierre Poilievre.
And if these repeat career car thefts are actually convicted, they don't have to worry about that either, because under the Prime Minister's Bill C5, which has the full support of the NDP, they have house arrest, meaning they can watch Netflix or they could play a game of Grand Theft Auto.
Exactly. That tells me though that's Canadian Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre in the House sort of talking about car thefts, and he's referencing Grand Theft Auto. It tells me that we don't necessarily have the same kind of culture of politicians who make the same kinds of references to video games. Why do you think that is, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, that was from about a year ago, I believe.
Yeah.
My first thought is that most people don't associate video games with like Canada or the Canadian identity, even though like we're maybe like number 3 or number 4 biggest country for game development. Like it's not seen as like part and parcel with our identity. The last real notable example is when former now NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was playing Among Us with Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez, and that was back in like 2020. Yeah. That was like super pandemic time. Yeah. Also, I don't think politicians see like the gamer sphere as like prime. Like a prime market at the moment, because like, for one thing, it's so associated with the right or the far right. I don't think the Liberals or NDP here would want to touch that. And the Conservatives, they're maybe more likely to go on like a Jordan Peterson sort of adjacent podcast than a gamer podcast. As far as Poilievre's comment there, is very much what you expect from most politicians. Yeah. It's a cheeky pop culture reference that I think most gamers would consider out of touch. It's very That's Pokemon fair. Go to the polls.
I love that note as an ending point. The Pokemon Go to the polls. I appreciate your time. You guys are lovely. I really appreciate you being here. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Orr is a senior writer for CBC Radio Digital, based in Toronto. Alyssa Mercante is an internet culture journalist in New York. You can read her reporting on Halo and Halo memes in Rolling Stone and The Guardian.